In our 5 minutes of table time at those early years, create worksheets that allow children the experience of individualizing the elements in the pieces that have to be thought of at the same time. Students are much more aware of fingering and counting if they mark it in themselves. In this sheet, my first year students were reviewing the ideas of steps and skips. They were also introduced to the double skip, which results in the interval of the fifth. They learn to mark a slur on a step, a small V on a skip, and a red V on the double skip, or the fifth interval. Here I asked the students to show me how those steps would look. How would the letters look with skips? Have them connect them on letters as well as on notes. Letters are the known. They've been working with those at school, and we've been working with them at the piano. Show them what it is on the letters and then associate that to the kitty. Connect the dots between elements. What would happen if we had the letters and we did skips? What happens if we do it with keys? Now let's have them learn how to think out their fingering. Return to the original ascending pentascale and have them mark in the fingering that they use. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Students who write in their own fingering tend to follow it much better than if we do it all for them. They have made the choices themselves, and they have created a plan for success. Students can see that if they are skipping from C to E and they have finger 1 and finger 3 under that in their pentascale, that is how we do it by the touch. We can even practice these actions on the table without any keys under our fingers, so that children understand the spacing before they have to understand where they are at the keyboard. Students can return to the table from the whiteboard and put the fingering on their worksheet for each note. They see that each note has its own finger assignment, and that remembering this makes it easier to write in. If it's easy to remember that all E's are finger 3 when writing, I comment that it's also easier to play the E's if they remember that they are all finger 3 at the piano. Now that they've marked in their fingering, take this sheet to the piano and play it. You have just pre-taught sight reading. You've shown them to think out the letters and the finger numbers. We often mark in our counting as well. Start your sight reading at the table and have them go over to the piano with the knowledge that they have all of the information needed to be a success. Sight reading need not be scary. Consider taking what is going on to a newly assigned piece later in the lesson and marking it up with erasable pens ahead of assigning the piece, so that the notes and fingerings have been pre-taught away from the piano. Thus, at the piano, there can be success more easily. Students really benefit from creating a copy of the music that they own. They must own it in order to do this. But analyzing it at the table and then highlighting certain features singularly so that they can understand it, taking it to the piano, coming back and doing a different element and taking it to the piano allows them ultimately to be able to multitask. And that is what music making is. You might be saying, I don't have time for this in a 30-minute lesson. I actually say you do, because it saves time. The piece has been pre-taught, and the students have everything they need on the page to be successful at home. They don't have to guess. Thus, less time is spent the following weeks in the fix-it mode because we have pre-taught. It takes more time initially, but less time later. I know teachers, though, who say it just can't happen in 30 minutes. And some of them have gone to the 40-minute beginner lesson. They look at 40-minute lessons over a 2-hour period as being 3 students having lessons instead of 4. In this way, those students have more repetition of each of the elements, and they have more ability to spend appropriate time at the table, at the piano, and incorporate listening skills and whole body movement into the lesson regularly. Now let's talk about counting. Even those first experiences in playing where the student is flying away on the black keys rising up, or exploring a deep dark cave on the black keys descending, speak out loud the finger numbers to the child in a meter. We need to instill a sense of rhythmic awareness before the child is actually responsible for doing it themselves. If we say something along the line of 2, 3, 4, move, 2, 3, 4, move, 2, 3, 4, we can say it in a way that we know we are representing 4/4 time. We are creating a sense of regular beat. They don't know what we are doing, but they will respond to it. We are speaking with them. We are making music a language. Have a parent that is attending that lesson practice speaking these numbers with us so that they can do this with the child at home. Even if there is no extra reinforcement at home, I find this immensely helps the beginnings of counting. Ahead of students learning their note values in whatever method book you think is appropriate for that child, incorporate much clapping of rhythms. Students love being able to do clap back times with their eyes open, with their eyes closed. They enjoy being able to listen to a metronome and say whether they think that that is fast or slow or medium. Can they clap with it? Can they clap with a tick and then miss a tick? Right now, we are just doing games with our new students, but we know that we are pre-teaching the half note. At the table, students do a pointing exercise where they show me which notes are the black notes and which notes are the white notes. This is usually quite successful. They are then invited to place a number 1 under the black notes and a 1, 2 under the white notes. Yes, I do also say that the black note is called a quarter note and that the white note is a half note. I do this on a regular basis, but I don't expect them to give that back to me until I have said it enough times that I think that they will be a success. Again, I'm pre-teaching the term before they have to give it back to me. I then insert these notes into a deck of flashcards so that they can initially say whether it's a 1 count note or a 1, 2 count note. And then over time, they will say to me that it's the quarter note or the half note. As they become comfortable, I add whole notes and dotted half notes, quarter rests. I pre-teach the note values through table work and listening skills before they arrive in a piece. Do you teach siblings who wait for each other? Take a few minutes to pre-teach the table work so that the young students can complete it while their sibling is having their lesson. I find that table work done at the lesson is done more carefully and actually is finished than when it is sent home to do. It isn't that they intend to skip it, but again, sometimes they forget, and other times, once they are away from our guiding hand, they aren't sure what to do. After all, many beginners are not capable of understanding written instructions without their parents' help now. Since the students have been putting unit counting on sheets at the tables for weeks, where it was the one element being highlighted, we can then ask them to place the counting on our earlier sheet for steps and skips. Here I am bridging between unit counting and numeric counting, allowing the students to see how the numbers align so that we can gradually change to the numeric counting ahead of the hands together pieces they will explore as they move into level 1 and away from the primer. Again, we want to pre-teach this element before it is needed in order to understand hands together playing. Let's jump to technique. Many of us do instinctively use the next pre-teaching suggestion, connecting the piece to its technical skills. This means, though, that we need to be able to predict and plan for the future repertoire and its needs in order to pre-teach effectively. I do encourage my students to break up their technique at an early age. It ensures that all of the technique isn't left to the end where it may be skimmed through with a lack of focus or worse, skipped entirely. Try planning different technique performance ways and posting them by the piano, perhaps on your calendar. Early performers could walk in and find a sign that says it's Kangaroo Week, and they have to play all of their tetrachords, pentascales, and triads as if they are a jumping kangaroo. Perhaps the next week it would be a slithering snake. Be creative. Help them to find new ways of playing something familiar. You're going from the known to the unknown and exploring things like staccato, portato, and legato before you're really addressing it in the visual aspects of their pieces. Older students can incorporate hand independence elements like right hand legato with left hand staccato, crescendos, accelerandos. Literally all the dynamics, shading, touches, and tempo changes can be explored here while they are repeating their technical skill. At Summer Sizzle, I had the opportunity to work with Group B and D together. And after hearing some wonderful compositions from the children, we had some time left. So of course, my mind instantly went to, what can we do with technique? So one by one, the students volunteered each other to come and experiment with me, where I asked them to play their favorite scale down then up. It's amazing how tricky that was, even with C major scale or the solid triads of C major for most students. Asking students to do this actually helps them to be pre-taught to do these skills when they come up in pieces. For in repertoire, our scales and triads and our formations do not usually conveniently start on the tonic. Sometimes they start going down first. If we have pre-taught them to vary their technique, they will be more adaptable to these moments in their pieces. If we are teaching a grade 2 piece, such as On a Quiet Lake by William Gillick, revisiting the B major pentascale re-imprints the shape of the key under the hand. Since we have used and reused pentascales with different touches and rhythms, revisiting this allows us to go from the known to the unknown and allows students not to avoid the pieces that happen to have more black notes than others. Knowing the B major pentascale isn't quite enough though, is it? Students can play games like start with the hands in the lap. How quickly can you find B pentascale? 3, 2, 1, go. Have the hands up, and then when they're successful, drop them to their laps again. Can you play fingers 1, 3, 5 of the B pentascale at the same time? With the left hand, 3, 2, 1, go. What did you just play? Can you play 1 and 5 only? Can you play 5, 4, 1 only? 5, 2, 1 with the left hand, 2, 1 with the left hand. All of these things still referring to the B major pentascale position. In this way, they've learned many of the aspects of that left hand for the first 2 lines before they have actually had to read it. Now you can show them where on the music these elements are. Some of these elements may sneak in as broken instead of solid, but with a little guidance, they will be able to locate these moments as well. We're not done yet with the pre-teaching though. We need to explore the G-sharp minor pentascale as well, and the triads. Now let's take those colored pens and color the page so they know when they are thinking in B major and when they are thinking in G-sharp minor pentascale for the patterns on the page. By doing the colored work in erasable pens, if students have an error, it's easy to get rid of it and to help them to find the correct place to put it. By doing this on a copy of their original, they can keep their original clear. We have to always remember one caveat. It's possible to have a piece of music be too cluttered for a student to be able to use it. Some students find multiple colors visually cluttering. These students do need both versions. If a student owns their own music, make the second version. They can sometimes think about what elements on the colored page they're going to be doing. Can they find all the red places, all the blue places for the different tetrachords that we are exploring with regards to that specific piece, whatever it may be, and then they can try and figure out where those elements are on their clear page and play off the clear page. Did you know that we don't have to tell our students that we are doing theory when we incorporate it? Let's look at a familiar early dance by Haydn to see how many notes a student can use as signposts to help them plan their notation. Through a treasure hunt for the tonic and dominant notes, students can learn that early dances often use tonic and dominant notes as anchors for much of the composition. And indeed, in grade 1, many of the hand position changes use these notes. By circling them with their colored pens, students can be more comfortable going to first list A pieces that appear initially daunting. For our Haydn piece in the key of G major, the tonic or Do, I encourage the use of solfege, is G, and the dominant or So is D. Students circle all of the tonics in red and the dominants in green, and you can see how many notes are tonic and dominant. In this way, each piece has its own set of signposts that go beyond the middle C, G, and F that we have used in the primer of our choices. Pre-teaching the feeling of the upbeat by singing with your students is an ideal thing. Many familiar carols and folk tunes begin with that upbeat. We can use My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, and students learn that upbeats are also tending to be the less important word, and they lead to the important word, which is on the downbeat. Try to walk in time while singing so that they can feel where that downbeat is. Triple meter can be a tricky thing for students to actually incorporate and feel without pausing at the bar line. Incorporation of whole body movement allows them to experience it on a larger motor skill level before they try and incorporate it into the small motor skills. Sing O Canada now. That first note begins on a downbeat. Feel its difference from the upbeat. Some of these activities indeed could be done at performance classes where children are learning to play for each other in small groups that are gradually expanding, leading to the big recital at the end of the year. Here we are pre-teaching coping strategies with our performance by beginning with music and with duets with the teacher and gradually working towards playing a solo by memory. Let's take a moment to discuss a different aspect of pre-teaching before I close. Teachers are not the only ones to pre-teach music. Parents and siblings pre-teach without being conscious about it often. When we have the wonderful opportunity to work with more than one child in the same family, we need to individualize the program. Whether siblings begin at the same time with their musical journey, or indeed begin 2 or 3 years apart, students are in the same house and are subconsciously learning each other's pieces. If a second child is an oral learner, they may just be remembering what they have heard before rather than learning new lessons unless they have a new method in front of them. Each child should have their own method then. While an expensive proposition, I found that I can guide a new student better if I know that they came to the lesson showing me what they know rather than what they remember. Today, I have just touched on the value of pre-teaching as it applies to some of the elements in the early grades. We have the ability to do this at every grade. We have the ability to help students learn their pieces more confidently and quicker. We have the ability to guide students into being more independent by teaching them how to look at their music and learn the skills ahead of time. We have the ability to help students define mood and color, as well as to get the notes and rhythms in place. We have the ability to pre-teach elements so that it isn't just the next piece that is being prepared, but all of the rest of the pieces that are in their future. We have the ability to connect the dots, to create a student who welcomes the joining of history, theory, and singing to the learning of piano. So let's explore this together and pre-teach our way to success.